Good morning, my name is Selma Memet, and this is my research project on utilizing cephalopod skin structure in order to produce bioengineered material in order for camouflage for human usage for St. Edward's School. What is a cephalopod? So cephalopods are invertebrates and mollusks, meaning that they do not have a spine and that they are part of the phylum Mollusca. So cephalopods either have a shell on the outside of their soft bodies or they do not have a shell on the outside of their bodies. They move around the water by jetting water through their mantle and often use the anti-predator technique of shooting ink out of their bodies. These animals are dioecious, meaning that they have separate individuals, male and female, in order for reproductive purposes. They are solely marine animals, meaning they only thrive in salt water or brackish water, which is a mix of salt and fresh water. They vary greatly in habitat depth, meaning they can live at the surface of the ocean or at the bottom, and they also vary greatly in size, meaning they can be very small or very large. There are about 750 species of cephalopods today, which includes octopuses, squids, cuttlefish, and nautiluses. All possess some form of arms or tentacles that evolved from the foot of a mollusk. So if you've ever eaten a clam, that's the foot. And all the tentacles and arms evolved from the foot of a mollusk. All cephalopods possess some sort of tentacle or arm between 8 to 10, except for nautiluses, which possess about 90 appendages. They are predators that feed on other mollusks, small fishes, and invertebrates. Cephalopods evolved at the beginning of the Paleozoic era, during the Cambrian era, about 530 million years ago. And then, through the mid-Paleozoic era, which is 416 million years ago, they split into two groups, the nautiloids and the coleoids. So the coleoids are the most present groups of cephalopods today, which include squids, cuttlefish, and octopuses, which continue to populate the world's marine environments. However, nautiloids, this is a nautilus, nautiloids, most of their prehistoric ancestors are extinct, meaning that they are not as common as the other group, coleoids. So both these groups evolved from a mollusk carrying an external chambered buoyant shell. And something very unique to cephalopods and their evolution is that some of them internalized their shell and some of them completely lost their shell. So for example, the squid has demonstrated this unique evolutionary pattern of internalizing its external shell into an internal thin, it's a plastic-like clear structure made out of a protein called chitin, while octopuses have completely lost their shell. Nautiluses, however, still remain with their external shell that is used for protection. And this unique evolutionary pattern of using their shell is said to be a result of competition in harsh marine environments between cephalopods, invertebrates, and bony fishes, which are vertebrates. So cephalopods can be very misunderstood throughout history, especially the larger species. As I said before, they vary in size. And I don't know if you've ever seen the famous image of a kraken taking down a ship. So they are very much illustrated as monsters of the deep and misunderstood. But cephalopods actually have this amazing ability to change their texture and color in order to adapt to their environment. So, and this behavior can be associated with emotions, predatory behavior, reproductive behavior, and it also can be shown throughout defensive mimicry and aposematism. So, defensive mimicry is found in the octopus species of the mimic octopus, where it mirrors a venomous species or changes its shape to appear more threatening. So it has been, the mimic octopus has been found to mimic a lionfish and a sea snake, which are both very venomous animals. And aposematism is found in the blue ring octopus, which is an extremely venomous species of octopus, and it warns predators away with bright blue rings and skin pigmentation. And something also that is extremely unique to cephalopods in general is that they have something called phenotypic plasticity, meaning that each individual and its capability to have responsive camouflage and to adapt to their environment is unique to that individual. So it really depends on each individual, the type of color they make, the type of texture they have. Okay, so this has been giving everybody problems, so I'm not sure if it will play. Okay, it's not playing, but that's okay. So the first video shows a cuttlefish, which is known for its ability to background match, especially a checkered color. And it's really interesting. I'm sorry you couldn't see it in the video, but when the cuttlefish is placed in the tank, almost immediately it changes its color from gray to completely matching the background. And I just find it amazing because cephalopods are completely colorblind. They can't see color, and yet they're able to completely mirror a different environment and different colors. And then in the second video, it shows an octopus being able to completely conceal itself into a rock covered in algae, and then it completely turns white. And I'm sorry you couldn't see that, but those are some examples of adaptive camouflage.
Wait, let's try it.
Oh.
Okay.
Both at the same time.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. So you can see the cuttlefish completely background matching, even though it's colorblind, and you can see how well the octopus was able to conceal itself. Okay. So this amazing ability that cephalopods have to completely change their structure of their skin, or completely change the color of their skin, is brought together by this amazing skin system that is connected by a vast neural network. So this skin system is made up of specialized pigment cells called chromatophores and small muscles that cover the body called papillae. So papillae muscles can be raised just in one spot or all over the body. And chromatophores are what make up the color of the skin, and they can be controlled in a matter of seconds by the animal. And they can have pigment that is black, red, yellow, or brown. And these cells also act as a unit with another layer of cells under them of iridescent cells, which reflect light and show up on the surface of the skin as a reflective surface. And as the chromatophore or the pigment cells get older, their color gets darker as well. So as new cells come in, which grow into empty spaces, they have a yellowish pigment, and then as the cell ages, the chromatophores get darker. And this amazing skin system is used in predatory demonstrations, a visual form of communication, reproductory behavior, and really showing the animal's emotions. So I do have another video. Let's see if it'll play. Okay. So this is a video of chromatophores under a microscope, and you can really see how fast the cephalopod is able to control it. And you can see how the color change comes in waves. And coming up soon, there's going to be a really big change in the pigment. So just in a second, you can see how far and how much the cephalopod can change its color based on the environment. So this system of chromatophores can be changed extremely fast, either by contracting the cell or relaxing it, contracting meaning limiting its pigment, and relaxing, showing more color on the surface. And this is controlled by a set of radial cells that surround the membrane. So there's a membrane that surrounds the pigment of the cell, and 15 to 25 radial cells that surround the cell, and that aids it to contract and relax. And there is one motor neuron for each chromatophore, controlling the change in color. So underneath these brown or black pigment cells, there are reflective cells. These are called iridophores or leucophores. Iridophore cells are found in all cephalopods, while leucophore cells are found solely in cuttlefish and octopuses. Iridophore cells reflect shorter wavelengths of light, which is blue or green light, which is going to appear on the skin as a blue or greenish reflective surface, while leucophores present in only cuttlefish and octopuses are going to reflect a broader band of light, meaning they reflect white light, appearing a more white color. And something that is really, really unique to squids is something called a reflectin protein, which is found underneath their skin, just like chromatophore cells and iridophores. This protein is completely tunable or controllable by the animal, and it aids in iridescence and color control. And this is what was the catalyst of my research. I just thought it's so amazing that an invertebrate could change color and could have this responsive change in their body structure, in their texture, and in their color just based on the environment. And this is not something that has a spine. This is something that is completely spineless, and it's a marine animal. And I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be amazing if we, like invertebrates and highly functioning, animals, could do the same to protect ourselves in our own military or in our own, in terms of our own protection. So currently, human camouflage is very much about blending into the environment and being one with whatever material is out there, whether it's sand, mud, or dirt, and as you can see by the colors on the screen. Currently, this is the official military uniform, which is called the operational camouflage pattern, and the other one is a past pattern that was changed in July 2015. But just what if human camouflage could be adaptive like cephalopod camouflages? What if we can make something, a material that soldiers could wear that could change color, that could change texture, all based on an environment? So there are many new technologies that might be able to aid us in this process. So first we have nanotechnology, which is the manipulation of matter on the scale of 1 to 100 nanometers in length. So it's very small manipulation of matter. And subatomically, the nanoparticles have a much stronger bond, making materials made out of, or materials created by using nanotechnology much stronger. So something that's being created with nanotechnology is carbon nanotube technology, which is being used to create body armor that is 117 times stronger than steel. However, this technology is not going to be adaptive like cephalopod skin is. It's not going to respond to the environment. It's not a smart material. It's just going to act as an external barrier, much like the shell of a nautilus acts. Secondly, we have something called MR fluid, which is a smart fluid that is controlled by a magnetic field, and it can be used as a responsive material, and any reaction occurring can be reversed. So this at the bottom is MR fluid. And finally, there's reflective protein, which I said before occurs in squid and can be utilized to create a film that changes color and changes iridescence based on the environment. So MR fluid, basically MR fluid are magnetic particles that are suspended in an oil fluid that is placed between two poles. So this image is an image of when the magnetic field is being applied to this fluid. So the magnetic field runs perpendicular to the poles, and when this magnetic field is activated, the magnetic particles in the MR fluid form chains and result in something like this. A complete change in texture and in shape, and it really alters viscosity. And this change is completely reversible. And it could mirror papillae, which are the muscles in cephalopods, and could mirror how cephalopods can change their structure. So if I can play this, I don't know if it will play. It doesn't seem to be playing, but as you can see, that is a close-up video of the muscles of the cephalopod of a cuttlefish, and it directly mirrors how MR fluid can be used as a complete change of texture and response to the environment. So as you can see, it's a very fast-acting muscle. Okay. Furthermore, reflectin protein. Reflectin protein can be derived from squids without harming the squid, so it's a completely ethical, an ethical way of deriving this protein, and it can be cultured separately from squids. And what scientists have been able to do is take this protein and coat it onto a thin, clear, tape-like material that can be placed over any material. So, and the thickness and how far it's stretched, and also being subjected to water vapor, all changes the color of this film, and all changes how iridescent it is, and it changes how it appears to the eye. So this could be extremely useful if we were to put it on a material that soldiers could wear for protection. And these proteins would be completely controllable by humans, just as they are completely controllable by the squid. So in conclusion, cephalopods are amazing animals that have developed through evolution these unique mechanisms for communication, predation, and camouflage, and showing their emotions really. And these new technologies such as nanotechnology, MR fluid, and reflectin protein mirror cephalopod capabilities and have true potential to aid our military and aid us as humanity to protect, to come up with new ways to protect ourselves and utilize camouflage. Thank you.
I'm going to open up the questions.
All right, first of all, Selma, that's a super cool topic. And it's so interesting for me to hear you guys speak about, I've always talked to you about history, so like, it's really cool to hear you talk about a different subject and to see just how well-rounded you all are with other subjects besides mine, even though I'm commercial in history. But no, this was super cool. And I guess something that came to my mind when I was thinking about history is, the cooperation between the military and the government with private industry and scientists. So like after World War II, there's a lot of cooperation of the military and the government with new scientific firms that were opening up in that era with Soviet scare and so forth, and developing weapons and things like that. So have you found in your research what kinds of connections have been made between the military or the federal government and some of these scientists that are working with this kind of thing to make some of these things happen for the military?
Well, in terms of connection between this science and military, I would say it's very prevalent because, camouflage is a science, and it's not just how can I background match something, it's also camouflage and body armor has to be shaped to the human body almost perfectly, or else, that's a liability, it could cost somebody their life, and it really has to be work in tune with the human morphology and just how the body is shaped. And also in general, camouflage itself mirrors science, it mirrors biology, when a deer is camouflaged in a forest, I mean, I feel like that's what really inspired people to be able to camouflage, to be able to hide ourselves, just like other animals can.
So are there certain companies right now that have been contracted by the military to continue this work of making this camouflage that you know of?
I don't know any specific research firms, but there definitely are companies that are partnered with the military. There's definitely research going on. The reflectin protein research, it was a research group from, I think Berkeley, and they were working with the military and presented this amazing information in order to be utilized for military camouflage. Yes.
Thank you so much for doing this. Invertebrates never get enough credit for all of the amazing adaptations they have. We're just, smelling things with backbones, and so thank you for that. So my first question is, what, and it sounds like I think you kind of might have already answered it, what made you choose looking at cephalopods and their ability to change color, and then obviously specifically texture, versus like another organism that can also change color like a chameleon?
Well, I was in Ms. Nelson's class in marine bio, and we learned about it, and at the same time I was reading the novel, I think it's The Soul of the Octopus, I think. Have you read it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just kind of thought about it, and I was like, this is really interesting, and I just found it really fascinating, really, that an invertebrate could change color like that and match to their environment like that, and it made me really think about also the intelligence and like the sentient factor of cephalopods and invertebrates in general, and that's also something that interests me. So yeah.
And I don't know that genuinely I don't know, and I don't know if you know, but if we don't, we're gonna find out together.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the control of their chromatophores and papillae, do you know if that's voluntary or involuntary?
I would say it's voluntary. I would say most of the time it's voluntary because it's controlled by their neural system and by their brain, not in terms of like how we breathe, but the chromatophore system and the skin system it can be used to show emotions and fear, and also it's an anti-predation technique, so I would think that a cephalopod will see something that they find threatening and think, oh, I need to change. Not exactly like that, but I've got to change.
Right.
How do we know that they're colorblind? I'd like to know that conversation. How that plays out. No, I'm just because of their nervous system could control that and match the environment without being able to see. I don't understand.
Yeah, through eye structure. It has been researched. I'm pretty sure they look at the anatomy of the eye and see and mirror it to different species that aren't colorblind, and yeah, just through researching the eye structure.
It's not a cognitive process. It's what's the mechanism that makes it recognize that okay, the muscle system, whatever is going to move this change, has to be activated. I'm trying to understand what it is in this little creature.
You could talk about the phenotypic plasticity. So it is actually an individual mechanism to where this species could look at this and kind of change its camouflage completely differently than the next one.
But is that coming from the brain?
Yeah, that's
I mean, they do actually think.
And what she was saying about the government, some of the largest grants right now in deep sea and coastal research, it's military.
How big is the brain now?
Pretty insignificant. Yeah. Really.
Sorry.
Now, Mrs. Buckley mentioned the chameleon, which steals most of the glory when it comes
Yes.
to the color change. Is that a
Because it's
completely different system? Like, how does a chameleon do it completely different than these underwater creatures, or is it kind of similar?
I'm not sure. I did not research the chameleon or their system, but I would really like to look into that. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
No, fair enough, fair enough.
Yes.
I would like to ask Mr. Mitchell this question again. How do they know it's certain color?
They are colorblind, but they can.
They're not using eyes, right? They're using skin.
Yes, but they have awareness and they can see hue and kind of a depth in a sort of way, in a kind of way that dogs can see, you know.
How do we see color?
We see color by.
In terms of, like, what is the light?
What is light?
You have that in your paper somewhere, like wavelengths.
Yes.
Like,
Well, we see color by it reflects light back into our. So each color is a reflection of light. So blue reflects shorter wavelength, and colors like white reflect more wavelength of light. So that's.
Did you come across the word chromophore at all?
Chromatophore?
Chromophore.
I think I've heard it.
Those are the chemicals that are present that change colors themselves. So chromophore and chromatophore, I think, is like a larger assembly that will contain these tiny molecules of dyes, for example. Let's go to MR fluid. How is it camouflage?
Well, it can mirror it. So it changes in texture. So if you can see, it changes in texture just like the papillae in cephalopods do. So that could, I mean, I'm not sure, but it could aid somebody in looking like an object that has more texture than, let's say, the human body or a human camouflage suit. It could be really useful in terms of changing the texture and how somebody looks at something from the outside.
What's that other part? Magneto-rheological? What's the rheological?
That's MR fluid.
No, what is the rheological? What does it mean? Because one part is you're using magnets to
Yes.
make it move.
Yes.
Rheology is motion.
Oh, it's the fluid dynamic. So it's called shear mode of flow. This image when it's from in between two poles and the magnetic field runs perpendicular. I didn't go super in depth on the fluid dynamic of this. I just know the basic how it works. But I'm pretty sure it's referring to the fluid dynamic, which is how the fluid moves and the movement of the fluid. Yes.
So on the MR fluid, I got to see like a little, I don't know, a while ago. And I think you mentioned it in your paper too, that it's also used for like shock absorption.
Yes.
So like, you know, if there's humvees that are going through like really super bumpy areas, like it goes from being like solid to more fluid to help with the shock absorption. So I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So far there's like nanotubes, the MR fluid, and reflected proteins.
Mm-hmm.
So comparing that to what's going on, you know, in the cephalopods, what's the one key piece that like we don't have yet or haven't figured out yet that is going on with the cephalopods?
I would say having something that is controlled by the soldier themselves rather than an outside, because the MR fluid is controlled by a magnetic field that has to be activated by something else, and then the reflectin protein, the color is changed by adding thickness, and that's not necessarily something that is, you know, accessible at all times or can be done at all times. So that's a downfall of these technologies. And then also one of my mentors mentioned this, the reflectin protein film, it can be changed in color and iridescence by applying water vapor, but that also could be a downfall if you're in somewhere that's very humid,
right,
or it's raining.
You don't want to change color yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting that like all of the individual like structures and pieces are there, and then, you know, kind of it seems like the last step, you know, hopefully that will happen, because that would be so cool to bring it all together and have this control mechanism that would actually be able to, you know, do that.
All right, thank you.